Slide this underneath like that, and I'm going to support that rim with my pointer, middle, and ring finger, and then I'm going to take this flat edge. All right, we're starting with 4 pounds of clay. We're going to make sure that the We're going to make sure that the bat is nice and damp, so that way it sticks to it. And starting the same exact way, we're gonna get that as close to the center as possible. And then something that I'm gonna do here that will help me with the centering process, we're going wide essentially here, is I'm gonna do something called slap centering in addition to my regular centering process. So the way that this goes, hands are dry. My left hand is coming in with this like minor C shape on top. I'm gonna start smacking down on the side here. And my right hand is in that same cupped C shape, and I'm gonna be slapping on the side. So I'm gonna let this spin, I don't know, about like a quarter of the way down on the pedal. And I'm gonna go ahead and just evenly tap back and forth like this to push it down and more center. And it can even be a little bit slower. Like that. And that's gonna really make sure that that's stuck to the bat. And it's also creating the foundation for our bowl, or excuse me, for our plate to get nice and wide. I'm gonna get my sponge nice and wet. It's loaded with water. Get this wet. Wheel speed whenever I'm centering is like 3/4. Technique here is gonna be really important. So we want to have our technique locked in because we're centering a larger mass of clay this time, but we're also centering it wider and wider and wider. So this is going to be the most difficult part of the plate and the most essential part of making your plate. So I'm going to put my hand here. My hand position isn't straight up and down. It's not cocked out either. I want to have it angled like this, so that way I'm getting a trapezoid shape as I'm centering it out and wide. That way the clay on the plate is slowly moving across the wheel head, not moving out, disconnected from the wheel head. So hand is slightly angled, still have those 3 points of contact. Notice the trapezoid starting to take shape. Because of the additional pressure and weight of the clay, not only am I making sure that I'm using the splash pan, kind of like that saddle that I talked about, but I'm also tucking both arms deep into my hips and then using my torso to add pressure on them and to lock them in. See the trapezoid shape? I'm angling out. And then the big thing is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start to alleviate pressure from my left hand that's centering the side now that this is completely centered, just by gently moving more pressure over to my right hand. So notice the transition in my torso. And that's gonna allow me to move this hand back so that way I can stretch this chunk of clay out and make the base for my plate. Taking my right hand, lots of water, I'm adding pressure into that center, almost like I'm gonna drill down, but I'm not. I'm pressing down and pulling out to get this wider and wider and wider.
Are you pulling down with your fist, or?
Yeah, I'm pulling out with my fist. So I'm literally pressing down and then pulling out like that. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna do it again. And then the angle of my left hand is, again, giving me that trapezoid shape. So the bottom portion that's connected to the bat is leaning farther out than the top portion. And that's making sure it's nice and connected. All right, there we go. And this is gonna be like an inch thick. All right, plates are really wide. People like to say that the success rate of plates whenever you're throwing them is about 50%. So if we make 4 in theory, we'll have 2 left after the firing process because they're so wide and so like unstable with that base. I personally haven't seen that. If you follow the steps through, like my personal experience, the success rate should be about the same in stoneware. Stoneware, the care is not as detailed as what it would be with other, clays like porcelain. All right, now that I have this nice and wide, I'm just gonna compress a little bit with my fist, going back and forth from 6 o'clock on the wheel to the very center of the piece. I haven't really changed my wheel speed. I'm gonna take my blue mud tools rib that has that right angle, and I'm gonna use this curved edge, nice and flat like this, to go ahead and compress that even more, just like that. Go back and forth again. I'm gonna clean that off. Now I have the base of my plate. So now I need to make the rim. So this is essentially like where the food will sit. And the way I make my rim, this is a little funky. This is like kind of bringing in some of the bowl experience too. I'm gonna come in on the side with my right hand, and I'm gonna slowly start pressing inward. And as you do that, your fingers of your left hand are gonna start to feel that clay rise up. Like this. And once I have a little bit, probably like an inch or 2 inside of that base of clay, I'm gonna go ahead and make a pool and make the rim of my plate. And let me just clean this off so that way you can see the separation a little bit more. All right, does everybody see that line?
Heck yeah.
So this line that I just made is where, like, the base is still connected below. And then right here is this is like 1.5 inches, or maybe just 1 inch of thickness that I have to like actually make a pool. And because it's like not crazy thick, I'm probably gonna do 1 pool of this and it'll be good. So I'm just gonna speed this back up. And then something else I like to do here before I pull, I have better access to the interior foot here. I'm gonna take my sharpened stick and just go ahead and clean that crevice and add that bevel. And that's gonna make it easier to wire off later on. So you'll really thank yourself for doing that. And then that also sets you up for success whenever you're gonna go trim. Because you're not guessing like, okay, I had this like paper thin skirt that I should have cut off in the throwing process, but didn't. All right, now I'm gonna do that pool. Putting my hand underneath, and I'm just gonna start pinching, and I can feel this thickness. I'm keeping that same hand position. My wheel speed is relatively slow, and I'm pulling out and slightly up.
Like a dog bowl.
What's that?
It's like a dog bowl.
Yeah, or like a pie plate, but yeah, absolutely. And then I'm just gonna compress that rim. And that's essentially it. Now there's a couple different ways that you can go through and finish this off. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the slip and clay from there. I can come back in and I can like use this nice flat curve. You ever see like a restaurant plate that is just like kind of one continuous curve? Mm-hmm. So you could do that just by using this rib and like kind of pressing out. You can see you got that shape there. My wife loves plates like these. Yeah, she loves plates like these. Like the real wide, Could even be like a pasta bowl plate kind of a mix, that Olive Garden vibe, but at home. Or I could do like a really defined rim. Get this nice and wet again, pull this up. I could do a defined rim where I'm gonna take this rounded edge too, but kind of emphasize that corner. And just create a transition between the interior of the plate and the rim of the plate. This is the only thing that I like adding a small spiral to. So I'll like come in as this is going nice and slow. Just do a small one like that. And then what I'm gonna do to define the rim of this, again, get my left hand nice and wet. I'm gonna slide this underneath like that, and I'm gonna support that rim with my pointer, middle, and ring finger. And then I'm gonna take this flat edge of this rib and then just gently start to press down on my hand, okay? And then I have a plate that has a little separation. And then that would be it. That's like all I would do. It's really important. We wanna wire this now, okay? And I don't have a wire. Do you mind grabbing the wire off the table? Thank you. What's that? Thank you. Appreciate you.
There's some judgment in there. You need a bigger wire.
I do. Is that okay? Sorry.
Sir.
Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Now, whenever we wire these plates off, sometimes I even like to remove the splash pan. And I like to do that so that way I can keep my wire as flat as possible. When you do really big forms like this that are wide, the wire, even though you're pressing down nice and firm, because there's so much space along the wire, it starts to travel up in the middle. So you're getting a hemisphere essentially. And you're cutting away the middle of your plate. So we want to make sure that we're leaving at least an inch of thickness, or else when we go to wire this off, you're going to wire through the center. So I'm going to just put my hands in the middle of the wire, press them out to the side, go ahead and just take my thumbs and make sure that it's nice and flat. Put that there. And I'm going to keep my thumb on the wheel head or even on the bat and just gently pull through. And what you don't want is you don't really want to see the wire slide underneath the clay. But if it does, that's okay. But that's a sign like, hey, I'm cutting it really close here. I don't have a whole lot of extra thickness because I can literally see that wire sliding underneath like this layer of clay. So leave at least like 3/4 inch of clay, slide that underneath, and then I'm just gonna I can use a rib to gently pop this underneath the bat if I can. There we go. Pop that up. And then I'm gonna put this on my shelf. And once it's on my shelf, I'm just gonna gently put a little bit of plastic over top. Just like this, okay? Does anybody have any thoughts as to why draping a small amount of plastic over top would potentially be important?
You want it to like slow dry?
Yes, I want it to slow dry. And the specific reason why I want it to slow dry and why it's important to have this plastic is if you look at the plate right now, the only thing that's getting air the whole way around it, the top and the side, is this rim. So as this clay starts to get like a skin from it drying, it's gonna start to pull, like if this is my plate, my fingers are the rim. As it dries, it's gonna dry uneven. So my rim is gonna start to curl up like this. and like you'll notice that big time. It drives me nuts. But like, just keep plastic over it. Try to keep the drying process consistently smooth. Once you have this, so that way it is leather hard on the rim, what I like to do is I'll put another bat over top, flip them, and then I'll gently pull that bottom bat off.